Jeff Goodby, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast.
So happy to be here again.
This is incredible stuff. I've been looking forward to this interview for a long time. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good, man. I'd love to be here.
Yes.
I had a really good time with you guys the last couple times. It was great.
Yes, at Cannes.
Yeah.
And
at Cannes.
Now we're on Madison Avenue.
Yeah.
It seems like there's no other ad agencies here. We got here and no other agencies.
There are more of them in Cannes than here.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Your ad agency is definitely not on Madison Avenue.
No.
You guys are obviously San Francisco based. You have a New York office as well. Where is that?
Yeah,
at?
Varick and Houston. Uh-huh.
Nice.
Downtown there.
And big win recently. Was it for the New York office?
For New York, both offices contributed. Yeah. We won American Express in the U.S.
Incredible.
So we are pumped.
And that's a creative agency of record? Or
yes, we are.
Projects?
Yeah, we are. But we're doing everything in the U.S.
Love that.
Yeah.
Well, congrats.
We have partners. We have partners that are doing this with us, but we are the central creative agency.
Lovely, lovely. So still winning, still kicking. You guys are stronger than ever. Who's the CCO there now? Is that Margaret?
Margaret.
Nice.
Margaret Johnson. She's awesome. Margaret is a killer CCO. She's running both offices.
Yeah.
She's on top of both offices. And she is North Carolina. She has been there for 20-odd years. She came there and worked on Nike when she was a little art director.
Okay.
Won a lot of awards. Did beautiful stuff and rose up through the ranks until it was really obvious you had to give her this job.
I like that.
It's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. People love her. And we just hired a CEO,
yes.
Sarah Thompson, who was David Droga's business partner for years.
That's a good hire. I feel like
it's
that's
not a bad hire.
It's not a bad call by you guys.
Yeah. David said if there were advertising draft, she would be first round.
Oh, really?
I thought that was awesome.
And then how'd you guys find her? Just through that quote?
Yeah. You want to hear something weird?
Yeah.
She worked at our company for 5 years when she first started working.
The boomerang.
So she's just a boomerang baby.
Boomerang baby.
Yeah, now she's the big cheese. But so we knew about her. I didn't think that she would ever be available for this. She's really, really a big hire. I mean, I told people this is kind of like we're a little bank in Oklahoma and Jamie Dimon is coming to run it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's a dream.
That's
right
how I'm
there.
feeling.
Nice.
Yeah.
So for this show, I definitely want to understand how you broke into advertising, and we'll talk about vandalism and some of your best lessons you learned across your career.
Cool.
For those that are just starting out, or for people that are in the industry and just need a little bit of oomph. A little more advice going on. How does that sound?
That sounds wonderful. I love doing that.
There's
nothing more important than people coming up.
Yes, I love that. And that's why you're a good guest. But first and foremost, what do you like to do outside of work? What are your days like?
Oh, man. Well, I've written and illustrated a couple of children's books. I'm kind of messing around with that. I play music.
Piano?
I have 5 grandchildren. Every time I get a new grandchild, they write a song for them. So I just got a new one named Riley in Seattle, and I wrote a song for her. Her parents are both rock climbers, like big bouldering people, and
that's cool.
I wrote a song for her called "What You Doing Up There" because she's probably going to be a climber too.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
it's genetic.
Genetic.
Yeah.
So I do that. Play tennis.
Are you doing the pickleball?
No, I haven't gone to pickleball yet. I'm still a tennis player.
Good.
Yeah, I'm holding up.
I like that.
I'm getting worse, but I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
Haven't pickled out.
You're calling it pickling out. I like
pickling out. I haven't pickled out yet.
So Riley is going to be a rock climber, and you're saying that's genetics. What did your parents do?
I don't have that gene. Dude, I'm not a rock climber. It scares the daylights out of me. My son has climbed El Capitan in Yosemite twice, and I don't have that gene at all.
Okay.
I've told him if I ever got halfway up El Capitan, I would pay like $10,000 for a helicopter.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's easiest investment
immediately
ever made.
Best investment ever.
For sure. But did it skip a generation? Like, what did your parents do?
Oh, interesting. So my dad was an insurance executive in Providence. And, from him, I learned to pay attention to every person in your company, the people around in general. Like, I think the biggest lesson that I have to give people, and the biggest, is to pay attention to the people that you meet, because they bring you gifts. And, you know, you can find ways to stay in contact with them, and they are valuable in your life. A lot of people are just like, you know, I met this guy, big deal. No, nobody's like that. Always pay attention. And my dad was that way. He would take me to work with him, like on a Saturday or something, and he would know everybody there. You know, the janitor, he would know the janitor's kids. He plays football, she's doing this. You know, soccer player, he would know all about them. I thought that was important, and I still tell people that every person that comes to our company changes it. And you might change it more than others, but everybody changes it when they come. Yeah. And my mom, very, very different, was born in Italy, and she was a painter, an artist. And she showed stuff, and so it was a good combination for this work.
How'd they meet?
Well, my dad was in business school at Wharton in Philadelphia, and he went on a blind date with the Italian sister of somebody, and it turned out to be my mom.
Incredible. Yeah, my parents met blind date as well. That's fun. Nowadays, there is no blind dates because you can go on Instagram,
find out about the person, before
everything about them. I think Ellie, our producer, was able to find somebody, but based off their first name and a prediction of which company that person worked for.
Oh my God!
And just a Google
prediction.
Search. Yes.
Predictive blind dates.
Yes.
It was one Google search.
It was
one Google search.
Yeah. So that.
So you got to really watch yourself these days.
For sure.
Mind your P's and Q's. Yeah.
Mind your P's and Q's. Yeah. Everything's out there.
You don't want Ellie to be frightened away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's talk about vandalism. This is something that you've talked about across your career. Vandalism in advertising, disruption in advertising. How do you define vandalism in this scenario?
Well, I like vandalism because it's a feeling. It's emotional. You know, I know disruption is kind of mathematical. You do something people didn't expect and you swerve or whatever it is. But vandalism is like a feeling. And it started, I never thought it would be valuable when I grew up, but it started when we were like smashing pumpkins and waxing windows and ringing people's doorbells and things like that and playing tricks on people in my neighborhood. They were always pretty harmless tricks. People would get pissed. It was great. We just wanted to get a rise out of people.
Yeah, the adrenaline you get too.
And the best thing was, you know, you're going to school the next day and you'd see the smashed pumpkin and you'd go like, dude, we did that last night.
You have to walk by though naturally.
Like, act natural.
Act natural, and you snicker.
Don't look too much. But I liked that feeling, which was to kind of make something, put it out in the world, have it be a little naughty, get noticed, and it would still be there the next day. It would kind of go on. And I think that's how you should feel about the advertising you make. You know, you should be so excited to see it out in the world that you just can't wait. You know, you have that feeling of like, oh my God, this thing we just made, it's going to hit this week, and we can't wait to see what happens.
I guess, like, I'm curious in, like, what is the opposite then? Just getting something out there, you sold something to the client,
sure.
They said, I'll
99% of it is the opposite.
Yeah.
It's not anything you're excited about. You're getting a job done. You're telling people that the tires, you know, really are good rain tires, and that's all you have to do.
Yeah.
I'm not excited about that. You know, I've been lucky enough to do things that I was really excited about in my career. Still am. I'm happy to say.
Yeah.
And a lot of other people are doing them now, so you know they're doing them, and I get to be excited about them.
And this is interesting because when I came up with the concept for Breaking Entering, I was
see the name of your show is a vandalistic name.
Exactly.
It is.
And I got it from a conversation. A girl that was trying to get her first job, a peer of mine, was saying, "Why does getting a job in advertising feel like you're pulling off a grand heist?"
Yeah.
And I was like, I wrote that down.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the name Breaking
There
Entering. You have
go.
to pull something off, it seems like, to get noticed in this business, to get hired.
Yeah.
So I'm curious then how you broke into the business. When did you realize you wanted to make ads for a living?
Necessity. I was a reporter in Boston, around Boston, and
Boston Globe?
When I had Boston Herald American,
Gotcha.
the Peabody Times, and in the Beverly Times, those three papers, which I think you know. And
Yeah. Ellie's from Boston. She's shaking her head
Ellie's
back here.
from Boston. So I was reporting. I was drawing pictures for them. I drew like editorial cartoons. I drew editorial things for the Sunday magazine, for the Herald American. I drew editorial things for Time magazine and a few other places, Harvard Magazine, Mother Jones, places like that. So I was doing all of that when my wife, who was from Southern California, decided she didn't really love living in Massachusetts. It's hard to imagine. But she wanted to move west. And I said, okay, I'm happy to go to California, but the only place I can stand in California is San Francisco.
Why?
Because I just went to the other places. And I'm not an LA kind of guy, you know? I've gotten to appreciate it. I like it more than I did. But in those days, I was much more black and white, and I didn't want to live in those places. San Francisco was, you know, it was still kind of the beat generation. This was a decade after Haight-Ashbury and, you know, the Summer of Love and the concerts in Golden Gate Park with Jefferson Airplane. So all of that was still in my head. And I thought of it as a countercultural place, which I still do, and I believe that it's affected us, but we can come back to that.
Yeah, the agency must have that embedded into its DNA.
Yeah. And lately, just to go through on that, I think it was very much embedded early on, and we were incredibly affected by punk rock. Like, we loved punk rock, and we loved junky-looking things, and we loved junky music and soundtracks and bad-looking film, which is all we could afford at the time. Scrappy. And that actually made us, like, that was good, you know, that we didn't have expectations of making everything really expensive and cool. And since then, I would say that we have infused a lot more Silicon Valley into that feeling, like, because we're in the middle of that. I heard this thing the other day, a third of the venture capital money in the world goes through the Silicon Valley. It's around San Francisco. So
it's a lot of money.
A lot of money. There's a lot of pressure out there to stay up with things, to stay up with tech.
Yeah. To
know about AI, you know, which I've spent a lot of time personally on. And I know the people around me are spending a lot of time, everyone is, if they're not out of their minds. And so that's affected us going forward. But going back to coming out here, so I came out, I interviewed as a newspaper reporter. I didn't want to go back to a suburban weekly thing because I had worked at dailies, and, you know, I thought I was like too good for it weekly.
So what was the dream career at this point? You wanted to be like an editor at a newspaper?
Yeah, probably wanted to be a columnist at the Washington Post or the New York Times.
Okay.
Which I would be screwed today if that were the case. I mean, I might be a good columnist at the New York Times, but I wouldn't have done any of the things that I've done, which are way more fun, I think. Sorry if there are columnists out there watching this.
They're probably not watching this.
I had a lot more fun than you did. Just saying. You know, I would live on Cape Cod and probably wear a sweater and smoke a pipe or something. And
that sounds pretty nice.
That is not what happened. So I got out there and couldn't get a job right away. And I started thinking, what else would be fun to do? And when I was in college, I would go to the library and look at, like, communication arts and things like that. And they had, like, those ads from, you know, Doyle Dane Bernbach, it was called in those days, and, you know, Scally McCabe Sloves, all these great agencies of the time that were crazy, you know, and Mary Wells, Richard Green, places like that. And, you know, and I was like, I like those. Like, those are really intelligent, and they're kind of written they were written in a way that I think about things in my head when I'm making a decision about buying a car or, you know, renting a car or whatever, you're taking on a vacation. So I thought that's kind of fun to write that way and think that way. Maybe I could get a job doing that. So I started, you know, there's no internet in 1978. That's when this was, because I'm really old. No internet. So I got the Yellow Pages and just went down all of the agencies. Didn't know what the difference was between BBDO and, you know, Bob and Ted's advertising company. And I would go into those places and, you know, go, wow, this place is big and important. And the next one would be a couple of guys smoking weed. And but what I learned was that I wasn't going to get a job showing my newspaper stuff. So finally, this is a little lesson for people. Charles Martel, who's the creative director at McCann Erickson in San Francisco, said, if you want to get a job, you got to go home, write some ads. Okay, so make believe you're working on a campaign that you really like a lot, write three new ads for that.
Yep.
Make believe you're working on a campaign that you really hate, write new ads for that, create a new campaign, and instead of using a resume, write a half-page autobiography that's funny, that shows that you'd be fun to work with. So I did all of that.
Yeah.
And nowadays, as an advertising person, I'm like, oh, that's like 6 months of work. But I didn't know that at the time. So I went down to my mother-in-law's farm in Southern California and drank like 2 or 3 cases of beer and did it in like 2 weeks and came back up. And I got a job immediately. Okay. It was crazy. I walked into J. Walter Thompson on the day that they got the Chevron account. And I guess they just figured they could fire me if I sucked,
What beer were you drinking?
Coors, for sure. Because my father-in-law was a big Coors drinker, Dodger fan and Coors drinker.
Coors is good. So you did that. You just 2 weeks drinking beers, made your own portfolio.
Made my own portfolio. Walked in. It was really the autobiography that got me hired. So Stu Hyatt was the creative director there, and I wrote something that was kind of like it was like I was dead. And there was an encyclopedia entry about me. So the first 3 or 4 sentences were true. He was born in Providence. He did this. He worked in newspapers. Then one day he walked into blank, and I'd put the name of the agency in there. And then the rest of it was total baloney. I made it all up. I become like the advertising king of the world, basically, in 3 more sentences. And everybody thought that was clever, and I got hired.
I think that's an
kind of an interactive thing early on.
You personalized it, but also it's like I think with the portfolios, you're not sure. You're making nowadays it's like 5 campaigns in the About Me section. You don't know what's going to resonate with the creative director or the recruiter on the other side. That's why you have to treat all of them with like high craft, like nowadays. And that for you was the About Me section, you're saying.
Yeah, and even though I could draw and probably have pasted together visuals, I didn't. I let the writing kind of carry it. Mm-hmm. And Stu Hyatt said, well, do you think you're a writer or an art director? I said, I don't know. What do you think I should be? He said, I think you should be a writer. You're good at both, but I think you should be a writer because if you don't write it, they can't art direct it. I said, okay.
Okay, I like
that.
That
made some sense.
And okay, so you had a choice then of what you could have went down.
Yeah.
That's wild to think about if you would have went.
And since then, I'm still pretty visual. I've kept myself up with, learning digital visual stuff like, Photoshop and all kinds of art studio and Premiere and things. It pisses off my creative people because I just go, hey, I took that scene and switched it for this one. What do you think? They don't like that.
They don't like that.
No.
Okay. So that first agency was J. Walter Thompson.
Yes,
is that correct? Okay. And then I believe you mentioned that was like a sandbox for you, which allowed for you to
and I tell people
that
I think this is useful for people that are looking for a job because there are 5 or 6 agencies that everybody wants to work at. Mm-hmm. I hope that mine is one of them. But if you can't get a job at one of those places, think about like what the job is really going to bring to you. J. Walter was not the greatest office in the world. They're very smart, kind of creative people there. They didn't tend to produce things well. They would get a script, a great script. They couldn't produce it. They would get great. They didn't know how to finish things, frankly. And it was a good place for me because, like, very quickly, they started assigning big jobs to me. Because the place wasn't hard to break into. Mm-hmm. And so within 6 months or a year, for sure, I was working on, the biggest projects there.
That's great.
And I had no right to be because I was an idiot. But they gave me the best jobs in the place, And I worked on an animated campaign for Chevron that was about dinosaurs being in the gas tank of the car because gasoline is made out of dead dinosaurs long ago. And Hal Riney saw that, who was like the biggest creative director perhaps in the world at the moment.
He was at JWT.
He was at his own agency.
Okay. He was
And
running his
at,
shop.
He was at Ogilvy and Mather's, what it was called then, and it became Hal Riney and Partners. But he was, he had just won one or two Grand Prix at Cannes when there was only one Grand Prix to win.
Yeah.
So that was a big deal. Yeah.
Let me get a fact check on how many Grand Prix there are now. Jack's putting up 5, 10, 15, 20, 25.
His hands are
He's
just
flashing,
going
yeah,
like this.
yeah. So he saw your work then, Hal Riney.
Yeah, so he saw my work and he called me up and he said, "You want to come over and talk?" So I didn't know who he was. I got to tell you, I had no idea who the guy was.
It's not the worst situation to be in, because then you're not so nervous, right?
No, but I did go to one of the senior writers at J. Walter and say I had this interview with Hal, and he said, "You have an interview with God." I said, "Really?" So no pressure, dude. And yeah.
You have an interview with God. Does that mean like what? Like I'm dying soon?
Dying soon, or all of your sins are going to be tallied up, and he's going to find out about that shit you did. But anyway,
well, he knows. He was watching.
He's watching. Well, if you know anything about Hal, he kind of looks like Ernest Hemingway, khakis, smoked cigarettes, real laconic kind of low key guy.
Did he have a mustache?
He had beard and mustache. Yeah, and famous voice. He was the voice of a lot of his commercials, like the Reagan campaign, The Morning in America. Mm-hmm. It's his voice.
It's a great voiceover. Yeah.
Great voiceover. And if you listen to that thing, he basically embodied the idea of like the opposite of New York and Chicago. He was about the West. He was about something that he believed there was at the bottom of the American spirit that was really good and clean and historically important. And it didn't exist in the big cities. He thought it existed out in the country and in Oregon and Washington State and California. And, and that's why he came up with all those things with, people on the porch in rockers talking to each other and mm-hmm. dogs and pickup trucks and so on, which he was he's a tough character, I mean, and luckily I didn't know that much about that. As you said, when I got there, I didn't realize that he had this reputation for being so brutal. But when I interviewed with him, I remember him going, "Well, maybe you'd like to come work here." And I said, "Sure, yeah, absolutely. How much money would you want?" I said, "I don't know. I'm not those making like $15,000 or $20,000 a year." He said, "I will pay you $26,000 a year." And I said, "Wow, cool." And he said, "Oh shit, that's not much money." So I said, "Okay, but I'll take it, man." So a few days later,
calm down. It's not that much money. Like, what are you celebrating about? How old were you at this point?
28 or something.
Oh.
Yeah, so I wasn't killing it.
Yeah, I mean,
I wasn't killing it yet. By the way, so.
But you got the job, and you got $28,000 salary.
26. Yeah,
26.
I said 28. I think you said 26. Anyway.
Yeah.
I didn't care about the salary. I called his office and I said, I think Hal hired me, and he hasn't called me back and said anything about when to come in or anything.
You're probably thinking, like, when should I quit my job?
Yeah, that's what it was. And so Nikki, his assistant, said, so covers the phone up, but I can hear what she said. "Hey, Hal, there's a Jeff Goodby on the phone, and he says that you hired him. He wants to know when he should come in." And Hal goes, "He says I hired him?" This is the kind of guy he is. So she goes, "He says you did, yeah." And so he goes, "All right, fine. Tell him to come in on Saturday." So he came in on Saturday. And I arrive on Saturday. There's like a new business pitch going on Saturday. This is an agency of 26 people at the time. So on Saturday, there's a new business pitch going on. I get there, and Hal's at the coffee machine, and I go, "No, he's been really nice, smiley with me, trying to get me to come there up till now, more or less." So I go, "Hey, Hal, how are you doing? And how's it going?" I said to him. And he said, "How's what going?" kind of like Clint Eastwood or something. So
this guy's awesome.
I can remember this. I said, "Hal, it's something people say." And he said, What people?
That's a great boss to learn under. I have to be more like him. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
gosh.
I worked there for a while, and I did some really good stuff. We won some Lions and things. Oh, I realized this is an important lesson day, I think. I was in his office one day, and he got a call from his best friend, who was Dick Snyder, was his director. And I could tell that Dick had said to him, "Hey, Hal, what you doing?" And Hal said, "Oh, just trying to make some of the best advertising in the whole fucking world." And he looked right in my eyes as he said this.
You better be. I mean, think about, for the listeners, think about that juxtaposition from an agency that you felt like didn't really care, couldn't really
Oh, it was
get
big
work,
pressure. Big pressure.
and now you go to this big pressure.
And I remember there was a fire drill one day, and everybody gets kicked. So there, like I say, not even 30 people at this place yet. So we all go outside, and everybody's hanging around, and Tom's standing with Tom Teach, who was big, really well-known art director at the time. And I said to him, "Man, this place is really intimidating. I mean, I'm kind of scared about whether,
Gosh.
Like that." And
How did he react?
he said, "Hal wouldn't have hired you unless you could do this stuff.
Oh,
Just
that's
do it." I remember that. I've told him that many times. I said, that really made my day, I still think about it now.
That's great.
Yeah.
Was there a story, did I read this correctly, that you met David Ogilvy?
Well, I met him a couple of times. David Ogilvy was the biggest name in advertising in the 50s and 60s until the sort of Jerry Della Femina age came around. But he was still an incredibly big name, handsome guy, white-haired, kind of red suspenders, Englishman. And he came out to the San Francisco. So Hal was part of Ogilvy and Mather at that point. So David comes out, and he's sitting in an office all by himself, down the hall from me. So I go, okay. I mean, I learned to talk to anybody when I was a reporter, and I just went in and said, "Hi, David. I'm a copywriter here. I just wanted to say hi while you're here. You're a big hero of ours." And he said, "Do you have any cigarettes?" And I said, "I'll get some cigarettes for sure." So I run out, I get some cigarettes, I come back again, give him some smoked cigarettes together. I'm smoking a
You light
cigarette
one up too.
with David. I did,
Yeah,
with
you got
David
it.
Ogilvy. And for a long time, Andy Berlin and I had saved the cigarette butts that David had smoked, and we had them on the wall of our office. This was cigarette actually smoked by David Ogilvy. But the most instructive thing from that day was he said, "Well, how many hours a day do you write?" And I said, "Oh, this is a trick question. I've got to say 8 or 10 hours, I work my ass off." So I tell him that, and he goes, No. You should only be writing for 2 hours a day, and the rest of the time you should be looking for things to write about." And I was like, wow,
Profound.
that's cool.
Very cool.
So it's kind of like they say at the New Yorker, everything's expensible, because you're always getting in material,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
didn't try expensing everything after that, but it was a good piece of advice.
I love it. So you got to meet him. That's incredible. Where do we go from here? When do you break off? When do you create your own agency?
So
And how is vandalism kind of embedded
So
in that?
quickly, Hal brings in a guy named Rich Silverstein from Foot Cone and Belding at the time, who's this totally different kind of character from me. He's kind of fast and nervous and talks a lot and screams at people.
Sounds like our buddy
Get-
Kindra.
Yeah,
Sean Kindra.
get Corey in here. That kind of stuff. It's
Wait, can you do some more impressions?
These are my impressions of people I've known. I'm sorry to those people. But he's a very different person. And working with him at first was hard because he I would get a tablet of paper and have a pen ready. He didn't even think that way. He would just sit in his chair and blurt things out, and every once in a while, some of them would just be great. And the rest of them would be like, what? And, you know, whereas I'm a much more careful kind of person. I write down like 5 things that might be good ideas, and we would kill 2 of them, and maybe the other 3 were good. I didn't do what he does. And he still does that. He loves to have lots of people in his office and, you know, that kind of thing. Anyway, so we start working on a campaign for the Oakland A's, and Billy Martin was the manager of the A's at the time. It was a funny campaign, still funny. It stands up. You can go see it on YouTube. It's very funny. And Billy was funny. And he was, for the Yankee fans, I remember saying to Billy one day, we were on a shoot down in Phoenix, I said, Billy, you know, this is crazy, but I grew up in Boston, and my father taught me to hate the Yankees, and particularly you. And I thought, I just told like the biggest whack job in baseball that I was taught to hate him.
How does he respond to that?
Billy just went, isn't baseball great? And he walked away. I thought that was so profound. Isn't baseball great?
Loved it.
I mean, yeah.
Billy Ball. And why did that work so well? I mean, what was going on with the organization at that time? How did you guys come? I'm assuming it was you and Rich, right?
Yeah, it was me and Rich.
How did you come up with that idea?
I don't want to take all the credit for it. I mean, Rich and I worked with a couple of other people, John Crawford and Hal to some degree. I mean, at one point, I was in his office, and he was like, he wasn't a baseball guy. He's like, who's this Billy Martin guy? And I'm like, well, you know, he's a volatile, crazy man character and he's been hired, he's been fired everywhere. He's managed before this. He just got hired by the Oakland A's, and they said to us, whatever you do, do not use Billy in this campaign because he's too crazy, and we're going to have to fire him, or he's going to leave, or he's going to hurt an umpire, and we just don't want any of that stuff. So I told Riney that, and he went, all right, what else have they got? I said, I don't think they have anything else. He said, okay, that's the campaign. That's 1. 2, he said, tell me some more about this guy. So I said, well, there's a sports writer at the Oakland Tribune, I'm trying to remember the guy's name, who says that he plays this really weird brand of baseball where people steal bases, there's a hidden ball trick, they're bunting at weird times, and so on, and he calls it Billy Ball, and Hal goes, okay, that's your tagline. That's the campaign, that's the tagline. I said, okay, fine. So we just start doing funny shit with Billy in it.
But hold on. Didn't the A's say that's like the one thing you cannot talk? How do you
Not only that, I got to tell you, public broadcasting came in, because Billy was such a big name and the A's thing was such a big story. They came in and they filmed the meeting at which I told them that they had to use Billy as the main thing in the campaign. They have that on film. And one of the commercials that Rich and I presented to them was this commercial where Billy comes out to the mound and says, you know, what's wrong to the pitcher, who's Steve McCaddy, and McCaddy says, you know, I can't think of the name of Wally's best friend, and leave it to Beaver, and it's messing me up. And so all of the guys start guessing, like, what's the name of the guy, and so on. And Billy goes, you mean Eddie Haskell? And he walks back to the dugout, and they all go, that's why he's the manager, like this. And the guy who was president of the A's, I'm not going to say his name at the time, did not get that joke. He didn't know what I was talking about. You know, everybody else in the room was laughing and so on. And so it was kind of awkward. And you see me on the video where I'm like, uh-oh, what happens now? You know, Rich is with me holding the storyboards, and I'm like, uh-oh. And finally, like, one of the other guys said, come on, it's funny. You know, we got to use Billy. Let's do it. I think it was Andy Dolish. And so we did it. You know, we focused on Billy. Mm-hmm. Really funny commercials, you know, like a lot of stuff with him being Billy, arguing with an umpire, but when he comes out, he actually agrees with the umpire. The umpire expects him to argue, and he's like, no, if you said he went around, he went around. I'm not out here. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
So I like that, because that was the most interesting thing about the A's at that time.
Yeah.
And that lasted a couple years until he inevitably got fired.
He did one day.
But you saw this coming. Like, you guys knew that he was probably going to get fired, given his track record.
Yeah, but still, they had nobody else. So we rode that thing as far as we could ride it. And one day, a reporter from the San Francisco Examiner calls me up and goes, "Hey, did you hear what happened?" And I said, "No." "Well, Billy, after the game last night, Billy got a baseball bat and broke all the urinals in the clubhouse, so they fired him." I said, "Oh." I said, and she was like, "So what are you going to do now?" I said, "I'm going to go think, I guess," you know.
Why did you bring up this one specifically? Is this like the inaugural campaign with you and Rich? That
it was the first big thing that
one.
Rich and I did together that won a lot of awards and got famous and so on. And the other thing that's important working at Riney, and I think this is another lesson for everybody, is we started working on a freelance account, which, you know, we didn't think was going to become anything much. It was a software game company. And
listen to this. This is good stuff.
Yeah. And you know, and Bing Gordon, who was an account guy at Riney at the time, hooked us up with these guys down in the Silicon Valley, and they had just started this place, and it was called Amazing Software. So we talked to them, and Rich and Andy and Andy and I sort of wrote we didn't call them manifestos in those days, or maybe we did. Everybody calls them that now. But we wrote like a vision statement for them about the people who wrote video games, coded video games, being artists. And we said, this is really a good thing to call them artists because they'll all want to work here. They'll be honored as people. They're not just a bunch of slugs that code things. They're artists that make things, and they're making the future of video games.
What's the company, Jack? Can you guess it?
I don't want to
No,
spoil it.
doesn't have it yet.
Go.
This is good. The reveal is going to be awesome here. I love this.
So we went to them and said, all right, here's the new name of your company, Electronic Artists. And they go, we don't want artists. And we get, okay, fine, Electronic Arts. And they went, okay, that's better.
Perfect.
So, honestly, God, at one meeting, Electronic Arts. Okay, done. So we went back and we made these big posters that said, we see farther. And Rich made these really spooky. But one of the things that I know really changed the industry in a way, besides the good games that they made, and they obviously have succeeded as a business. But at the time, that whole thing about treating people as artists was really important to hiring the best programmers. So Rich took these guys and had, like Norman Seeff, I think it was, photograph them all in black. They look like a rock band. You know, it's like 15 programmers, and they look like they really look good.
That's sick.
Men and women both, and they're real badass. And Andy and I wrote a headline that said, "Can a computer make you cry?" Okay, and it was like we have visions for what games can be that are way beyond what's going on now.
Yeah, now you're helping the whole business all around. You're changing the whole company.
Yeah, and so really quickly on that, I went to a 25th anniversary thing at Electronic Arts 25 years later, and engineers came up to me and said, "I saw that ad. That's why I'm working here."
Great.
Yeah, it was cool.
Are they still doing
cool.
that? They should bring that back if they haven't.
It's on the wall of their office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But revamp the campaign.
It would be smart.
Yeah.
Although people just want shit where you can shoot people faster now.
True. That's true. Yeah. I think you guys also did this, I know, with HP, right? You kind of stripped away and then you found the identity with just the one word.
Yeah. That's another really interesting story is we worked on HP for quite a while. They were very hard to work with. They were stuck in the past. They wanted to, they were making printers and boxes on desks, and they were not a sexy company whatsoever. But then Carly Fiorina was hired as their CEO, and she was a fire plug, or whatever you would call it. She was a fire starter. Mm-hmm. And I remember we went to her and we said, this place was started in a garage. It's the most influential company in the Valley. Like, lots of people came from here. I mean, Steve Wozniak worked there. I don't think they would hire jobs. But anyway, a lot of really influential people came from there, and we said, let's go back to the garage. Let's strip this down to be about the garage, about Hewlett and Packard in a garage, and doing this thing. And she liked that. And so we started writing commercials that did that. And then I think this was the biggest thing is Rich and Steve Simpson and I were in Rich's office one day, and we were like working on a tagline for them. And there was a lot of stuff about, we invent this and that. So, and either Steve or Rich, it wasn't me, said, what if we just used the word invent all by itself? That's it. That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
And so we were like, wow, I wonder if she'd buy that. So Rich made all of this signage that had invent on it and stuff. And we went in there, held it up, and she said, I absolutely love this.
Great.
It's going to cost us millions and millions of dollars to change packaging, to change the signs on all of our offices, to change everything that's going on here, our annual reports and so on, to say invent, but we're going to do it.
Nice.
Yeah. It was amazing.
That's a big time. Where was that at Goodby? Goodby Silverstein
Yes, sir.
Partners? Or
Yeah.
was that?
No, that was
Okay.
was-
So
that
I
was at
skipped
my
ahead.
place.
So I would love to
Yeah.
hear about the decision and what went into creating your own agency.
Well, I mean, it really happened because the Electronic Arts freelance thing started making us some serious money. Like we were doing okay. And we were spending all of our free time away from our kids and families and stuff working on this freelance account on weekends and everything. And it just kind of got in the way of our lives. So, but we were still like, oh, is it really enough money to start an agency? I don't know. It's scary. But Berlin had quit his job at Riney, Andy Berlin, gone to work at another agency. He was really unhappy with his life. He would not mind me saying this. And he was always like, come on, you guys, let's fucking start an agent. What's your problem? Come on, let's go. And Rich and I are like, well, easy for you to say. We're like Riney's favorite team. We're doing really well here. We had it good. Getting paid more than $26,000 by this point. And
Things are looking good for you guys.
And things are good. But, I think I went up to Berlin's house one day by myself, and we drank a bunch of scotch, and I went, okay, let's do it.
So the best parts of your career, if I'm understanding this correctly, you made it your portfolio, you got a job, you have some scotch.
Scotch is an important part of this.
Scotch and the Coors. This is
Of
not
course.
sponsored, but they should sponsor.
I should be wearing a T-shirt. On the way home from Andy's house, I stopped in those days at a telephone booth and called my wife Jan, and I said, well, I think we've decided to do this. And I can just remember one word from her. Great.
Oh my gosh.
I had a kid and a mortgage.
Yeah.
And we quit and we went to one room, about 50% bigger than this room, $500 a month down on the waterfront in San Francisco. And
That's great.
yeah, and just, we didn't even buy furniture. We didn't try to make it cool. We just brought things from home. There was one telephone in the middle of the floor. We waited for it to ring, and it would always be like one of our friends calling up and going like, hey, what are you guys doing?
Hey, can I buy an ad? Hey, can I get a billboard by this weekend? Yeah.
Yeah, so it is funny because on the day that Rich and I were going to go tell Hal, Rich is like really impetuous, nervous kind of hair trigger person, and I'm like, oh man, I don't want to do that. I don't want to. So I was like procrastinating all day about going to tell Hal that we were going to quit. And Rich just kept coming to my office going, let's go quit. Come on, let's go quit. What are you waiting for? Like this. And, so, and I'd be like, oh, I just got to write this headline. Just let me finish this headline and we'll go quit. So I'm dragging my feet until it's about like 4:00, and I'm afraid Ronnie's going to go home. So I go, okay, fine, let's go down there. He's still going like, let's go quit. What are you doing? And so we go down there and we sit down, and Hal goes, well, what brings you boys in here? And and Rich said, tell him. I swear, that's a true story. So I tell him, and Hal goes, well, if you guys get tired of making your own coffee, you can always come back. I thought that was pretty nice of him.
That is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you never had to. Right.
Never had to. And actually, you know what? This is crazy, but he paid us a little stipend of $2,000 a month for like 6 months to work on new business projects with him. We never did a single thing. He
nice.
just gave us the money, and then after 6 months or so, he said, and I'm sure it was so that we wouldn't steal his accounts and his people, which was smart.
Yeah.
After 6 months, he called me up and was like, well, I think you're doing okay. I don't think I should send that money over anymore. I said, okay.
That's nice of him. And I guess then from there, did you get EA as like a client, like as a first client after you did that?
So we had EA as our first client. And we were making decent money on that. There was a day when Bing came in. Rich had done a few packages. We kind of made like album covers for their games. Nobody had ever done that. So we interviewed the artists and stuff and made them like an album cover. And and you got a floppy disk in it to play the game.
Yeah. What games were out at that time?
These are like classic games now that you've probably never heard of, like Mule and Archon and Hard Hat Mike, I think it was. And I mean, a lot of these games have gone on to be like collector's items.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. They made like the first music construction set where you could write music on a computer, and they made a word processor that was really good. And so Bing came to us and said something like, we'd really like to have you do all of our packages, and we're going to be making a lot of games. And I said, oh man, we're not a packaging agency. We're a TV agency, man. We're thinking about big TV commercials and big high gloss print campaigns and stuff. And he said, oh, that's too bad, because I think we're probably going to pay you about $40,000 a month. And I said, oh, we could be a packaging agency.
Whatever you like.
Yeah, I think we could do this. So we did. We did all their packages.
Incredible.
And then, like I was saying before, pay attention to the people you meet. I went and gave a talk, and William Randolph Hearst III, the publisher of the Examiner, was there, and he came up and asked us to pitch their business, and we won it. And we did this campaign for them that was
the
totally,
portrait.
Where his grandfather is talking to him at night, and going like, "Who are these people you're hiring?" Well, and so it was fun, and it was a great campaign with really. Thank you. Thanks. Really big. It was a great campaign with really big name people in it. Hunter S. Thompson did an ad with us.
Yep.
Where he is we thought it'd be funny to have him be on a firing range when Will came to try to hire him. And we got out on the firing range at the Presidio, the Army base in San Francisco. And he was insisting on using real ammunition. He had like a .44 Magnum pistol. And he said, I want to shoot a real live ammo. And, if you've ever been in the presence of Hunter S. Thompson, you have to go, no.
Not happening.
No, it's not going to happen.
Safety
He said, but it's not going to be realistic. You need to have ammo in the thing to have like realistic kick. So he said, come on, Hunter, you can do this. And he's like, it's not the same. Oh, there's another Hunter moment that was really funny. Because I was back at the office, and Andy and Rich had kind of started the shoot without me, and they were talking to him about the scripts and stuff. And Berlin calls me up and goes, oh, Goodby, you got to come out here. You got to come out here. You got to come out here now. And I said, what's going on? He said, you know how you thought that Hunter S. Thompson was crazy, but he'd be fun? Well, he's crazy, but he's an asshole. And so I went out there, and Thompson's there, and I think he was high on something. But he's like, I can't read this. Who wrote this shit? Like this, and Andy and I had written it, of course. So we went. Well, let's not argue about that now. What would you like to say? So he said, at the end, I would like to say, let's chase them like rats across the tundra. I said, okay. I don't think it's going to be funny, but sure. So he's holding this pistol, and Will is trying to talk him into being a columnist at the paper, and he's just going like, let's chase them like rats across the tundra. It had actually worked. I had to go home. I mean, it was hilarious. So, yeah. So again, everybody that walks into your life might be connected to something that turns out to be big for you.
Of course. I love that. I love that. So then, I mean, we didn't talk about Got Milk, but there's plenty of coverage of that in the history of that. Is there any funny stories that maybe you've never talked about that campaign, or is all of it pretty well documented?
Well, again, it was staying in touch with somebody a little bit. Mm-hmm. There's a guy named Jeff Manning who was an account guy at J. Walter Thompson.
Yeah, and you saw that article that you wrote.
Yeah, you saw that.
Yeah.
And I kind of stayed in touch with him, and he asked us to pitch it, and we pitched it. And at some point, like I said in that article, John Steele did some research about, how people feel about milk. And some lady said, the only time I notice milk is if I run out of it. Mm-hmm. And we went, holy shit, this could be a campaign about not having the product, the absence of the product.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of how it came about, basically.
One of the best campaigns of all time, if not the greatest campaign of all time. So it has been an honor, Jeff. Is there anything else that you want the next generation to know as they're embarking on their decades of vandalism? Probably for the first time. They're probably just trying to get their first job in advertising.
It's like, don't give up. And, there's nothing more important in the world than a great idea. I mean, things like Got Milk, a lot of people just get something like Got Milk, or I was going to tell you about that, the idea of using the orange color of Cheetos, the dust that comes off of Cheetos that most people think of as a pain in the ass, to make that into a campaign of positivity. Mm-hmm. To do that, you can't touch this thing on the Super Bowl with MC Hammer and so on, and make a typeface because you can't do things, with your dominant hand. Suddenly you have to use the other hand to do things. So there's that Cheetos type. All that kind of stuff came from a simple observation about the product that this orange powder came off it. And when you get an idea like that, ride it. Like, don't just do one thing with it. The way things are these days, media is so splintered. We tend to do one thing. We think it's really funny. Okay, we did a thing with the powder, and then we put it away. That thing it's still going.
Yeah.
It's been for years. So when you get something like that, ride it. And really, it's a matter of not giving up on things. I mean, it's very hard to get into this business. Get a toehold. Work hard to show that you're cool, and don't do. I say to the people in my place, if your mom and dad or your best friend or your cousin or your brother and sister would think of it, don't do it. Do something else.
I like that. I love that.
Yeah, try to do something that's yours. Because everybody grows up with an innate sense of humor, with an innate bunch of dumb shit that they did with their friends. And most people don't think of that as important. I think of it as what you use to make things that are good and that connect with people.
Yeah, I love it. And I just love thinking about that conversation that you had with Hal Riney, like how simple it seemed. Like, well, tell me about this guy Billy.
Yeah.
And what was interesting.
Yeah.
You just crafted that tagline so fast. It's so simple.
Yeah.
You just got the most interesting thing. I'm going to be thinking about that with breaking entering.
Sometimes it's just like watching for things around you that are going to get famous, that are going to work, that everybody can connect with.
Totally. Wonderful.
Okay, man, that's been fun. I hope that was enough.
Oh, that was great.
Is that good?
Totally. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Nice.
I know that Meredith was really worried that I was just going to talk about things from 1982 the whole time. That's why I had to talk about the Cheeto thing at the end, because she'd kill me.